Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. As promised, we're back as usual this week to Zelda related stuff. And today, I thought I would do a more generic video for you guys so I can easily gain everyone's opinions in the comments. So the things that I'm going to be talking about today are 5 hopes that I have for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. Before the video begins, why not subscribe for more weekly Zelda and Nintendo content? 85% of people who watch me are not subscribed. I know you can do better than that, guys. I've also got a few big collaborations coming up soon to keep up to date with the rest of the channel. Now, let's get into the video. Number 5. Traditional music. I think that a lot of people may have some gripes about me putting this in my list, as the music in Breath of the Wild suited the game perfectly. But from the sneak peek of the game that we've been given so far in the trailer, this game feels as if it'll go a small bit closer to the original formula that a lot of the older fan base will love and remember. Now listen to this excerpt of music that we've got from the initial reveal of the sequel, little under a year ago now. Wow, time goes fast. It's something grand, a difference from Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild had you walk through a perfect fit of music for that game. A serene, beautiful melody, with few piano notes far in between each other. Now do not get me wrong, that really suited Breath of the Wild as the gameplay was centred around the world and how peaceful it is, in contrast with the chaos that's found within the world. However, this new game looks, so far, different and scarier than the previous installment, and this is why I think it deserves the treatment of grander music. For what it's setting up for might be the grandest game in the Zelda series, with many theorising this could be the last game with Ganon being the primary antagonist. Or at least for a while. Number 4. A larger variety of enemies. I feel as if this point doesn't actually need to be explained that much in comparison to some of these points, especially my last point. Many people feel as if there were not enough enemies in the predecessor to the sequel, but it's almost based that the enemies that were found in Breath of the Wild all had unique personalities. For Christ's sake, I actually felt bad when I had to kill a Bokoblin. I mean, look how cute this little guy is. I even got the Bokoblin amiibo. Anyway, this is getting tangential. The point is, every enemy was different, from the Bokoblin's actions and goofiness to Lizalfo's eyes moving, or just the ways in which the Wizrobes moved around the map. The enemies were so unique that even the bosses all had a sort of personality. But let me get on to my point. My point is that now they have different animations and personalities for the base enemies in the first game. Now, they can build upon that. I feel as if I may do a larger video on this in the future, but to quickly state some enemies I'd love to see in the sequel, I'd love to see the Iron Knuckles and Darknuts to make a comeback. I would die to see a re-dead in Breath of the Wild's art style. The thought of that is amazing, as the art style of the game reminds me of both Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. I get that they may be working on different aspects, such as my next point, but I feel as if more enemies is a necessity in the sequel. It's almost unanimous that everyone thinks this. Number 3. A different Breath of the Wild world. Now we all know that in the past Zelda games, they've introduced different worlds, or different variations of the normal world for the hero to explore. 2 prime examples of this idea in action would be the 2 games that carry the most nostalgia in the entire series, Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past. On one side, A Link to the Past used a completely new world in a story sense, and gave us the Dark World, something that became a bigger thing that was much more explored in the latter. The Ocarina of Time used the time mechanic to let the hero of time travel through time and space to come to a new varied Hyrule, 7 years after he initially pulled out the Master Sword from its long slumber. Breath of the Wild already had a giant world, and its world was gorgeous and different for the series, with a completely new art style that did levels for our views on the game. It feels as if this new world has already been sort of teased to us Zelda fans, as we were shown sort of a cave in the sequel's initial reveal trailer. Now at first glance and at first thought, we've all thought that the underground in Breath of the Wild 2 may be its new world. But I have a different opinion and idea to this. As many people have theorised, and as I've already said in past videos, I think that we could have a Breath of the Wild 2 world set in the past, much like Ocarina of Time's feature, but reversed. Maybe using Zelda's newfound powers, or maybe even using the Gate of Time that seems to be seen in the Sanctum. Some ideas, if the world is set in the past, will be showing all of the old structures in the previous game that are shown as desolated in the first games, such as Castletown. As in, the Creating a Champion Zelda book, a concept art of Castletown is shown. I guess we'll have to wait for at least a new trailer that may have to come out in the coming months. Number 2. The Shrine formula improved. I loved the Shrine formula the first time round, and even the second time round when playing the game, but I still stand on this point. I think that the shrines kill an element of the replay value for Breath of the Wild, As if you even have the foggiest idea what a puzzle is, you can normally figure out the puzzle without much thought the third or fourth time. The same goes for the Korok seeds in my opinion, but it's much harder to remember all 900 of those little. But again, this is straying way too far from the conversation at hand. The point is, I loved the new shrine system. I just think the replayability aspect could be improved in some very specific ways. I feel like if a sort of shrine system did end up coming back in the sequel, I feel like it would be more for combat. Meaning that the hero of Wilds will be facing new enemies and foes in an underground area, serving as a complete contrast to the blue, colourful kind of feel of the Sheikah shrines from the hopeful race in the amazing first game. Some trials that could be presented to the hero could be a silver Lionel, only for those with many hearts, from different shrine sorts of things, and then you have to come back to it in the later stages of the game, as the Trials of Strength acted as this sort of progression visualizer for the player. I feel as if there are many different ideas that the Zelda team could bring to the table that I've not even stated. Maybe even you guys could come up with better ideas. Tell me your ideas in the comments if you happen to have any. Number 1. Traditional dungeons. My number 1 pick, the most obvious from the beginning of the video. I know it's cliche. Ooh, an older Zelda fan wants the old formula back. Well, it's gone. But listen to my points and then you can judge, okay? Glad we're on the same track. As I said in my first pick, my traditional songs pick, this game so far looks to incorporate both the new formula with the older formula that the older fans loved. And lots of the older fans had this exact gripe with the first game in this new mini-series in their timeline. The dungeons in Breath of the Wild were grand and great in all their own ways, but let me throw a spanner in the works. Where is the combat in these dungeons? Trust me, the puzzles shown in the newer dungeons were perfect and incorporated the Divine Beast controls perfectly to actually create amazing puzzles that could take a while to do on a first playthrough. But again, the replayability factor suffers because of this, as people already know how to complete the puzzles and can figure them out in seconds if they've played it already. I mean, if you put me in front of Varuta nowadays, I even know the order in which to get the terminals at this point. I can't even imagine what it must be like for someone who's played for 1,300 hours. Hyrule Gamer. The theming of traditional dungeons in the older games was just so amazing, and the music in these dungeons are always spot on. The last game just created the same atmosphere every single time. And I know this was done to make it feel like the calamity was always there and always watching. I mean, the quote is right there in creating a champion, but it fell flat in some ways in my opinion. I mean, I fought the same boss 5 times, maybe barring Thunderblight, as that was a genuine hard fight at times. I mean, even Koga and Dark Beast Ganon, despite being easy as all hell, were nice to fight. They were at least a sort of uniqueness to bring to the table. I could talk about this for a generation, but I fear I must end this tangent somewhere. So, to conclude, unique bosses and themed dungeons with themed music, please and thank you. Well then, that did take a while, but we did end up getting there. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Now if you got to this stage in the video, comment Breath of the Wild 2 trailer coming soon. Because guys, I really need the hope now, and I'm interested to see who makes it to the end of these videos. Next week I have a Nintendo themed video for you guys to munch on, but the week after I have a big collab with a fellow Zelda-tuber, and I'll be on their channel fairly soon. So if you want to know when I'm on that tuber's channel, then follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I also have a Discord now with some of my subscribers already in it and some other YouTubers. So please, keep checking out my socials as I have my Discord link right there for you guys. My handle's on screen right now. If you did enjoy this video, then please consider leaving a like rating and subscribing as it really helps me out endless amounts to reach new audiences. Thanks so much for watching to this point, and I'll catch you next week.